In today's video, we have an absolutely massive story exploding through Cowboys Nation, and fans everywhere are buzzing because Matt Eberflus has officially broken his silence about leaving the Dallas Cowboys, and the comments he made have set the entire NFL conversation on fire. So buckle up, because what we're diving into today isn't just another simple coaching comment or a random off-season interview. It cuts right into the long-running, emotionally charged core of what it means to be part of the Dallas Cowboys organization, both from a fan perspective and from the inside of the coaching world. Eberflus, for years, has been looked at as one of the most disciplined, detail-driven defensive coaches in the league, a guy who built his reputation on structure, preparation, player accountability, and old-school fundamentals with a modern edge. And when he suddenly left Dallas back in the day, many fans barely blinked, because the Garrett era had created a strange numbness where coaches came and went without a lot of spotlight. But as time passed, and especially once Eberflus transformed Indianapolis's defense into a well-oiled, high-effort, ultra-disciplined machine, people started looking back at his Dallas years and thinking, hold on, we might have messed up letting this guy walk. And now, years later, Eberflus has finally opened up about what really happened behind the scenes, why he made the decision to leave, and what he felt during those final months in Dallas. And trust me, Cowboys fans have not reacted calmly. The moment he admitted there were reasons behind the scenes pushing him away, social media absolutely detonated, with Cowboys fans storming the internet like it was draft night after a controversial pick. And the thing is, Eberflus didn't go scorched earth, he didn't name names, he didn't throw accusations. He simply said just enough to confirm suspicions that Cowboys fans have been whispering about for years: issues with coaching autonomy, scheme restrictions, and organizational control trickling down from the top. As soon as Eberflus said that he felt like he was limited in what he was allowed to do defensively, the entire internet lit up like fireworks, because for years Cowboys fans have been complaining about exactly that coaches aren't given full freedom to run things their way. That success in Dallas is often capped by too many voices in the room, too many hands on the steering wheel, and too much top-heavy influence from people who aren't the ones on the sideline every Sunday grinding out adjustments in real time. And here comes Eberflus, calm as ever, confirming in a subtle but very real way that these concerns weren't just fan paranoia, they were real internal pressures that coaches actually felt and had to deal with. And the emotional reaction from fans wasn't just about Eberflus himself, but about what the whole story represents: a pattern of talented coaches flourishing once they leave Dallas, whether it's Kellen Moore finding new flexibility elsewhere, or Dan Quinn leaving despite having the players' full trust, or even long-gone assistants who've spoken about the difficulty of having a clear vision in Dallas when the organization always has its hands on the framework. And now Eberflus's comments make people look back at the roster he was working with and think, if he had simply been empowered more, could he have built an elite defense right here? Because the truth is, even back then, Dallas had pieces: young, athletic linebackers, untapped secondary talent, and a pass rush that simply needed better structure. And now, with players like Micah Parsons, Trevon Diggs, Darren Bland, and a defensive line with explosive potential, Cowboys fans are haunted by what could have been if someone like Eberflus had been granted full control over scheme, philosophy, and development. And the thing that really got fans spiraling into deep what-if territory was when Eberflus said he sometimes wondered what would have happened if things had been different in Dallas. That line cut through Cowboys Nation like a blade, because it implied that even Eberflus himself believes there was untapped potential, unfinished business, and a ceiling that could have been shattered if not for organizational constraints. And fans, who live with the pain of every postseason collapse, every moment of almost but not quite, every decade of waiting for the next deep playoff run, took that comment personally. They saw it as confirmation that the Cowboys' biggest enemy isn't the Eagles, the 49ers, the Packers, or anyone else. It's their own internal structure, the invisible walls that prevent coaches from operating freely and maximizing the roster's true ability. And then came the next bombshell, something that sent fans speculating faster than trade rumors during the draft. When asked whether he could ever see himself coaching in Dallas again, Eberflus didn't shut the door. In fact, he left it cracked open just enough for fans to lose their minds, saying the NFL is unpredictable and that he would never rule out any opportunity. And that immediately triggered a tidal wave of theories, some fans wondering if he could return as a defensive coordinator someday if things go south, others joking that maybe he'd even come back as a head coach in the distant future, and others saying he brings the exact type of discipline and all-business mindset the Cowboys desperately need in big moments. And while a return isn't something anyone should bet on, the point is that Eberflus's comments made it clear he still respects Dallas, still respects the players he coached, and still sees the organization as a place with massive potential if certain internal structures ever evolve. And the reaction to that was fascinating because Cowboys fans don't just love football, they emotionally invest in narratives. They latch onto what-ifs, hopes, possibilities, and the dream that maybe, just maybe, there's a missing piece that could finally bring the franchise back to championship glory. And Eberflus, without even trying, reminded everyone of how many brilliant coaching minds have passed through Dallas without ever being given the room to build something fully in their own image. And when he talked about how much talent Dallas had, how much he enjoyed coaching there, and how curious he sometimes was about what they could have built together with more freedom, it forced fans to look back and reevaluate the entire timeline of Cowboys' defensive instability. Because think about it, for years, Dallas struggled with defensive identity. One year they were overly conservative, the next year they were experimenting, the next year they were adjusting mid-season. And while Dan Quinn brought stability and fire, even he eventually left because he likely wanted something different. So hearing Eberflus admit he was held back just reinforces the concern that talented coordinators come to Dallas full of ideas but leave because those ideas collide with higher-level influence. And it leaves fans asking, how many playoff runs were lost because defensive creativity was restricted? How many young players never reached their peak because the scheme couldn't evolve? How many moments where the Cowboys needed flexibility, halftime adjustments, new blitz concepts, or more aggressive coverage strategies were stifled because the coaching staff wasn't allowed to fully execute their vision? And it leads directly to the emotional undercurrent of Cowboys fandom, the sense that the franchise has always been inches away from greatness but somehow keeps tripping over its own feet. And Eberflus's simple acknowledgement reignited all of those emotions. It wasn't just about him. It wasn't even just about the defense. It was about the last 20 years of frustration, the years of talent without results, the seasons that ended in heartbreak, the belief that every piece of the puzzle was there except for the organizational willingness to let coaches truly lead. And now, with Cowboys fans desperately wanting to see consistent defensive dominance, it stings to hear a former coach imply that he was on the brink of building something special, only to be limited by the very structure that should have supported him. And when fans heard this, it wasn't just outrage, they felt validation, because they've been pointing out these issues for years. So to hear a respected coach calmly say, "Yeah, there were things behind the scenes, yeah, I felt limited," that was like someone finally acknowledging the elephant in the room that fans have been screaming about on social media season after season. And the irony is that Eberflus didn't intend to ignite controversy, he just spoke honestly about his experience. But that honesty opened the door for massive reflection within Cowboys Nation, prompting questions about what the next decade of Dallas football will look like, what future coaches will expect from the organization, and whether the Cowboys will ever create an environment where top-tier defensive minds aren't just hired but empowered. Because fans aren't asking for miracles, they just want a structure that doesn't waste talent, doesn't stifle innovation, and doesn't hold back coaches who could elevate the team. And now that Eberflus has opened up, Cowboys Nation is buzzing louder than ever, with conversations exploding about the future and the long-term direction of the franchise. And while nobody knows whether Eberflus will ever return to Dallas, the simple fact that he left the door open gives fans just enough fuel to speculate, dream, and argue passionately about what's next. At the end of the day, Eberflus's comments didn't just reveal a truth, they reignited a debate that's been simmering in Dallas for decades, proving once again that no matter what happens, the Cowboys will always be the most dramatic, most passionate, most talked about team in the NFL, and that Cowboys Nation will never stop fighting for the greatness they believe this franchise is destined for.